Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Speed Talk podcast hosted by the Grand Meadow Speed Lab. Pretty cool one tonight. Got a special guest, driver of the Bob and Lisa Collins Motorsports number three, the Squirrel, Brian Shirley. Brian, thanks for joining me tonight. How you doing tonight, man?
Oh, not too bad. Just trying to get all the crazy things that, happen through the week with, family life and everything that is outside racing. It's definitely a lot to do in an evening between work and getting all the kids ready for all their stuff they got. So we luckily got 5 minutes here to talk to you guys and I have to go back to finishing the night.
Sure. So, now I did a little studying on you today, Brian, because I've been watching you race for a long time, but I kind of dove into your history a little bit. 2006 Knoxville Nationals champion. I was not aware of that. Take us through a little bit of that one. What was winning that big deal like?
I mean, it was really cool. It was something that happened early on in my career. So, not sure that I even knew the prestige of, it was so early. I think I was only maybe 4 years into my racing career. So racing was still very new to me because I have never raced cars before. So, um, it's not like, obviously just went into PDC. There was a lot more to take in and more to, I don't know, like inhale and just soak it in this time versus the Knoxville Nationals. It was like I don't know if I was, I never always tell myself it's not that I wasn't supposed to win. It was just like something that seemed like I probably shouldn't have won as
Sure.
early as I did. It was one of them nights that everything lined it up. The car was amazing, and I really didn't, truly understand the magnitude of what we just did, and it took a lot of long time to even figure out how to get back to that capable of winning these races. It's a lot harder than it looked at that time.
Right, right. So now, Brian, I feel like in maybe the last year and a half, 2 years, you kind of came on to something. I mean, you had that stretch where, last year you won three World of Outlaw races in a row. Just what's that kind of been like? I don't want to say being at the top of the game again, but maybe there were, I don't want to say a few things you'd fallen behind on before that, but just seemed like you kind of hit on something, mid-year last year, and you've just kind of been on a hot streak since then. I guess what changed for you?
I mean, we did, we switched to Longhorn chassis there, right around June, July, and then um I won't say that it's car because rockets are great, Longhorns are great. I mean, the race car is a race car. It's just um we put a lot of time into more dedicating time into the testing, the technical side of it, the data side of it, and it's hard because I don't have a crew chief or anything like that that can help me understand what goes on that night to help make the car better. So every
Sure.
decision is based off myself, and that's pretty tough when you're doing it from the cockpit yourself. That's the
Right.
hard part about racing against these guys that got good crew chiefs, good teams, and we got a good team, and we got a good a lot of good people behind us. We just have a just a little different situation when it comes to understanding the race car and the setup. And I won't say I understand it because I don't truly. That's what every time like it's kind of last year I thought, man, we was like, I think we won, 12 out of 14 races there. At the end of the year,
Yep.
won them three outlaws races in a row, won five total, and things were like really, really clicking. I'm like, man, this is going to be a big year for 2025. And then the tire rule changed. They made a different tire. Things happened, and then I'm like, beginning of this year, it was like everything I had learned went out the window. So it's took, you know, between some of the bad luck and things that happened early, it took all season almost to finally get to where we're now back to where we're, really consistent and hopefully start winning some more races soon.
Sure. And I'm sure, when you're off with these guys, I was listening to, I think it was a podcast with you and Gordy Gundaker today. I was listening to that, and you guys were talking about, you guys are within a tenth of a second. A tenth of the second at the level you're at is so big. So yeah, I'm sure you get off just a little bit. Like you said, tire rule changes, and that's huge. I mean, that's difference
It,
between starting fourth in a heat race versus starting on the pole and winning and making the draw. Yeah, that's huge. But so you kind of came back into your own here a little bit. Obviously Prairie Dirt Classic champion. Man, I don't think there was a dirt racing fan in the world that wasn't grinning ear to ear for you. I mean, that was just so long overdue. I mean, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and just to get to see you win that one and to see the raw emotion you had was just pretty special. I mean, I feel like you're a pretty calm, cool guy, and to see you show that emotion, that was pretty cool.
yeah, I definitely feel like, I am that type of person. Like when, we go to a race and we win, you know, truthfully, we load up and go home. I don't even really relish it that long. It's, as when we win, I feel like I'm just doing my job. Like that's what
Sure.
I'm getting paid to do. It's what I was hired to do. So I look at it as that. So I don't never get really, really crazy. But yeah, to finally, I've been trying to, win another crown jewel since 2006, and
Right.
just, we've ran second, and a lot of the big ones, it's the Show Me, Frick Cedar Lake, and then Pittsburgh. I mean, there's even last year at Knoxville, we ran
Yep.
second, and I was just like, man, when what can we really ever do to figure out,
Sure.
and so just a lot of things between, how hard this season has been early with the fire and just a lot of heartaches, and felt like we had a lot of trial and error of, whether that you could easily just say, man, enough's enough and give
Sure.
up. And I think it just all come out that night of just all the hard work, all the dedication, all the extra time that we put in to try and compete with these guys. And, even on top of my personal life with my wife, my kids, and everything they sacrificed, it just all come ahead. And man, it was definitely like just a breath of fresh air that it was over.
Absolutely. No, and you said something about your wife. I was listening to your Kenny conversation with Kenny Wallace today, and you said she's a NICU nurse, if I heard that right. Um,
Hmm.
I just want to say my fiance, she's a nurse. They do a good thing. They don't get enough credit for what they're doing. That's a tough job. So she does a good thing.
Yep. Yeah. And she's good at her job. And that was one thing that when early on in our life, we had kids, and she chose to follow her career and do what made her happy. And then, obviously being a nurse, and then, being, a really good nurse is even better that she excels at her job. So yeah,
Sure.
definitely proud of all the nurses and people that, they don't get enough recognition for
Right.
what they do.
Absolutely. Now, so Brian, I want to go away from I don't want to say the circle track side, but the four wheel side of things. I didn't know this about you, but you were a dirt bike racer, motorcycle racer for a long time. What's the backstory on that?
That's what we did when we was a kid. I mean, we rode, heck, I think the first time I ever rode a dirt bike four wheeler, I think I was around 3, 4 years old. And we always would just race, or not race, but go riding, in the woods. And it was just something me and my dad did. And, luckily one day, a company that he worked for, he, had some friends that they raced, and I stayed at their house a lot. And then as we got older, they asked if I could race. And so my dad had bought me, a motorcycle when I was or a race bike, an
Sure.
actual race bike. I had regular dirt bikes for woods and all that stuff, but not, actual race bike that costs a little bit of money versus just a trail riding bike. And did that a little while. And then, man, I think around 92, 93, 92, I got hurt young. And then 93, something things went on. We kept racing, and it was like, boom. Uh, we had a track in our backyard, and I practiced all the time. And then all of a sudden, we just winning races, winning as every step up level as far as next bigger bike. And then um, truthfully thought that was, I really thought that was where my life was headed,
Sure.
and then got hurt somewhere around like 99, 2000 ish. Got hurt, and just some things, just truthfully life things still just went in a different direction, and luckily was dating a girl at the time that her dad was getting back into racing, that quit racing for when they had kids, and he was getting back to a part of his life where they could go back racing, and he just let me drive his car one night and just kept going from there, and
Yeah.
here we are.
So now have was that a late model?
No, it was we ran. He raced mods at first,
Okay.
so we ran mods for about a year and a half, and then in that time, I had happened to see like Billy Moyer and Bab and Bloomquist and them guys come to some local races that we were running, and it really intrigued me to be like, man, these guys are making a living doing this, And at that time, I was cocky, so I was like, I could do that too, and it's like anybody that's a successful race car driver, they believe that they can do it and they can win. And that's how I felt. I was like, man, I think I could do it if I had the right opportunity. So we just went out there and bought an old clunker late model for the first time and just kept racing. And like everybody, you try to race with a little bit of less to show that you can do it and hope that somebody sees that, you're doing good with something that ain't as good as what they have.
Sure. So now, obviously a lot has changed for you from racing an old clunker to your deal with Bob Cullen now. What what transpired in those years of, racing that old clunker to now, racing a top, dirt late model team? What happened in that stretch there? I mean, that got you to, to where you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit around. We was lucky, we had won Rookie of the Year in UMP that year, and Rayburn always gave Rookie of the Year a free frame.
Okay.
So that kind of like took us in the direction of trying to work with him, and really it was him and Ed Petroff and a couple guys that had gave me an opportunity to have better equipment, and then it's just a domino effect. You
Sure.
keep going and keep racing, and there's sometimes I had thought that maybe we were done, and then something would happen, and there's always when there's always a dark day, there's always a sunny day the next day, and so we just kept racing, and then more people come along, and always seemed like just somebody would come along at the right opportunity to keep things going, and then we did get with the first opportunity with Petroff, Ed Petroff, Petroff Towing, that got us out there for a good while, and then went with a couple other guys there for a minute, and then I think I've been with Bob now for the last 10 years. So
Gotcha.
was very very blessed to meet Bob, and they gave us obviously every opportunity to race at the highest level that we're at.
Absolutely. And, I've always kind of wondered this, you guys are one of the top race teams. I mean, I know you're doing a lot of it yourself. You've got three young guys working for you, is that right? Two?
Two, I got two.
Got a
Yep.
couple young guys working for you. I mean, just what I've always kind of wondered what goes into, like tonight, for instance, what goes into that, just that day-to-day grind of a top late model team getting ready. I think you're going to, is it Boot Hill this weekend? Just
Yep.
what goes into, what all goes into getting stuff ready. You guys raced Humboldt and 81 last week, and it's Tuesday today, and you got a quick turnaround team. I mean, what differentiate? Yeah, what's the word? You get the word.
Oh yeah.
Uh, a top late model team. I mean, what's the difference between what you guys are doing and maybe some of these local teams to get ready?
Well, the biggest thing is the local guys, they're going to work, 9 to 5, and then coming home at night and trying to work on their car maybe 1 or 2 days a week. If not, I've watched guys, not work on their car till Thursday night before they go race Friday. Where
Yeah,
for us, after 81, I drove home all night, got home 7:30 in the morning. Slept a little bit that day, got up and, had to do things around the house that need to be done to be prepared so we can be ready on Monday. The guys, they got the car unloaded. One guy's washing, getting things cleaned up. The other one's getting, all the stuff cleaned as far as the trailer and the truck and everything that's, dirty, and then um, taking, uh, I can't even think of the word, but taking inventory on
Sure.
everything that we use from the weekend to make
What do you
sure,
need to order? What do you?
yeah,
Sure.
or what we get out of the parts room. So
Sure.
for me, on Monday, I'm normally keeping track of what needs to get ordered or what needs to, go in place and what needs to go get, whether I go and get all the tires and things while them guys are working, to where then like today, you got Cam working on the car, getting it, maintenance up, and then Anthony's all working on tires, and then I'm, truthfully, I was working in the trailer on all shocks and springs to get, everything ready to go as far as, making sure the shocks are dynoed. And
Sure.
I'm on the technical side. They're on, one guy's on the tire side and one guy's on making sure the car, doesn't fall apart. So,
Sure.
and then we'll button that up tomorrow. There was a little bit that Cam got everything maintenance and everything gone through that he needed to get through. And tomorrow he said he had to just do some body work and put, so everything as far as we take the right side of the car off and this and that. So when we're washing it, so everybody's really close. We feel pretty comfortable to, where we'll get done at a decent time, because, we'll have to leave tomorrow night to,
Sure.
make sure. But we're also leaving tomorrow night because we're going to test on Thursday night. So it's like we're always doing more than, the average person that's
Sure.
just doing it for fun. We get paid to work on race cars every day where, they got
Absolutely.
to work. So it's just different, just a different level.
So now I gotta ask, what's that balance like, Brian, as far as, I mean, obviously you're a dad and you're a husband, full-time race car driver. What's keeping that balance like between the home life and just how difficult is that?
I mean, it's definitely not easy. I mean, we'll just say like this week. I mean, like I said, I drove home all night from Boot Hill myself because I knew I wanted to get home to see my family and do the things that we needed to do. Got home about 7:30, got back up about 11. Then in the afternoon, me and my wife and the kids, actually went to lunch that day. Then we got your normal chores and things. There's whether we got things outside to keep picked up with the farm animals, or whether the inside, one week, I was closing the pool, stuff like that. So, and then, you just try to, like today, it was tough. It was a tough day today because I had one kid that had to go get his braces fixed. So I had to take an hour in between my day, go drive him, get him braces fixed. And another kid had tumbling tonight. And then, you're trying to do all that in between. I mean, my wife had treatment today, so she was
Sure.
not able to do the things that she normally handles. So she normally handles that, but obviously, it's my job to step up when she can't, and that's all we try to do. Is we just try to balance who isn't busy the most to
Sure.
get the things we need to get done. But it's not always easy, but most of the time it all kind of flows pretty good.
Yeah, but no, it sounds like you and your wife you do a good job. I mean, that's a lot not only on you, but I mean that's a lot on her, a lot on your kids. I mean, it's a busy lifestyle you're living, but it's a pretty cool one. But I want to kind of get away from the racing side of things, Brian. Um, you sent me your email address today, and I had to look into Harry's adult daycare. Just take me through a little bit about what is that?
That's a that's a old dive bar that me and Bob had bought. I think we bought it. I think at 7, 8 years now. We bought that because Bob owns a bunch of bars up and around his area, and he was trying to get me to look into you know thinking about life after racing and things
Sure,
like that. So we have some obviously some type of income, and this bar it come available, and I had talked to him about it, and I knew about it because it had some ties with some people that I knew that owned it before I did, and then my dad was pretty close. It was one of his sipping holes when he was
Sure.
growing up. So, or actually, when I was growing up, it's where he hung out a lot. So I knew a lot about it, and it's just another thing that we've been working on as far as, we've been messing with that, messing with some rental properties, things like that to help make sure that when life isn't, racing, being a race car driver, there's, obviously some income after it.
Sure, because it comes to an end at some point, whether you want it to or not. I've always wondered that about a lot of these guys coming in, a lot of these guys that have lived this life, since I think of Bobby or someone like that that's been racing since he was, 14, 15 years old. He's never, and this isn't a knock at Bobby or anything, but I mean, he's never known anything other than racing. There's gonna come a time in life where that comes and goes, and you know, I've always been curious how many of these guys are planning for that, if guys just race and figure it out when the time comes.
I think back in the day, people more just raced, and I don't really know that they figured it out like we are today, but if you pay attention, obviously, the flow deal with
Yep,
JD shows that, they got the dirty ranch there, the dirty dollar ranch that
sure.
he's, invested in cows and I think that the more you pay attention to a lot of people, a lot of racers in today's time are looking to invest. Obviously you have to, because it's like what you said, at some point in time it's going to stop. And just because racing stopped doesn't mean that, living and the cost of living stops. So
Right,
I do believe it was maybe something that people didn't, you've heard of some stories in the past of some drivers that when they, retired, that things got kind of tough on them. But I really do feel like in today's era that there's a lot of guys paying attention and making smart investments to know that they got to have a future besides
sure.
just racing cars. So I think it's better today.
Absolutely. Um, so now, Brian, I going back, you talked about, getting your deal with Bob. You guys had a tough start to your racing season this year. I hate to bring up bad memories, but I do gotta ask, you had that tough night at Needmore, the fire, you wrecked some. Was it Florida Speed Weeks where you wrecked a car and then you had the fire? You just had a horrible start to the year, I feel like. What, what's that say about your team that you guys were kind of able to persevere through that? I mean, there's a lot of people I feel like that could, say, well, it's February, let's hang it up till, May, July, and we'll try again then. I guess what was that stretch kind of like for you guys as a team?
Yeah, I mean it was a tough one. I mean, even for myself, if it wasn't for, Bob willing to, I mean, he after I think after the Needmore deal and then really after Alltech when I backed the one car on the wall and put a rear clip on it, I really expected him to call and say, "Man, this is just we need to take a little bit of
Sure.
break and regroup." And that never was his mentality, man. If it wasn't for him, every time something went wrong, he just said, "Man, we got to keep we can't quit now." Like he's told me, we've talked about it before. We're too invested, or he's too invested in it to just walk away from a bad thing that happens here or there. He's like, we got to push through it. We got to keep going. I mean, this is what we do. We race for a living, and unfortunately, there's bad days where you tear things up too. And sometimes it's like those, that deal there. It's bad enough where it wouldn't have been, it could have easily been for a team to call it off. I
Right.
mean, we were literally invested in, 2 weeks. We easily went through over 100 grand, and that's not easy on a race team at all.
Sure.
So it was something that truly Bob was, he was the guy that kept everybody together, and then the team did awesome. My guys, heck, it seemed like the more tougher it got, the harder they worked. They never squallered about, we drove to North Carolina, got one car fixed, actually got them both fixed at the same time because they had one. We already had one there. So we ended up fixing the one that I wrecked and then putting getting the other one that they already had fixed, and then hitting that last week of Volusia there to keep us, going for the outlaw deal. So
Sure.
luckily, between just Bob and Longhorn and everybody, helping us get the cars back together, we just kept grinding it and kept digging, and then like anything, it's just hopefully you hope for the good days, and
Right.
eventually they come.
Yeah. Then you win the Prairie Dirt Classic.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was
I'd have
yeah.
been disappointed if I had called it off. And I mean, it was pretty rough at that deal. I was definitely at a point in time if someone would have said, "Man, this is it," I could have easily agreed with them, but luckily, I had someone like Bob to say, "Hey, this isn't it yet." So we just kept working, and like you said, ended up winning the PDC, and things have been going pretty good ever since.
Absolutely. And I gotta ask, you win the big race at Fairbury. You're an Illinois boy, grew up racing Macon and around those areas, if I'm correct on that.
Yep,
To get that
yep.
one in your home state, you took the lead. I tried to do some studying on you today, Brian. I went back, I watched the race. You took the lead fairly early. I mean, what's going through your head? I've never led a big race in my life. When you're ticking off laps, $500 a piece, and you get to that, get those last couple laps, and you see B Shep down there. I mean, what's going through your head in those moments?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, truthfully, I didn't even think about the lap money. Like when it was all said and done and we won, and then they told us, that we had won,
Yeah.
$88,500. I was like, holy shit, that was
Yeah.
a big deal. But when I was out there actually racing, trying to win the race, I never once thought of the money. For the longest time, I was just trying to hit my marks, and I could see the scoreboard on how many laps are left. So even when I could feel B-ship those last couple laps, like I just told myself, I was like, I was so tired, and I mean, it's exhausting, running 100 laps that hard. And I just kept telling myself, just, as the laps were winding down, it was like 10 to go. I was like, don't fall out of the seat, and
Right.
just everything to keep yourself motivated to stay on the wheel. And then them last couple laps, I bobbled really bad coming out of four, and it let him get really close to me. But on that last lap, and something just told me just hit your same marks that you'd been hitting, and I did. I hit the same marks I hit the last 99 laps, and then it was good enough to win the race.
No, that was like I said, that was a pretty cool one to see. I I want to go now to the World Outlaw sides of thing. You got talk so you got Boot Hill coming up. Looked up some results for you this year. 37 starts, you got a win. The one thing I noticed about you, Brian, your consistency this year, top fives, you got 18 top fives. Um, the only two people ahead of you is Bobby and Nick as far as top fives go. You got more top fives than Ryan and more top fives than Tim. I think that just says something about your consistency that you've been right there all year. Maybe not the amount of wins that you would like to have, but what's it like just trying to stay consistent through that grind of the season?
Really, the consistency has actually just come, within the last probably 2, 3 months. The first part of the season, what's kind of killed us from being in the points a little better than we have. We've really just clawed our way back. We had such a bad speed weeks there, some motor issues at Volusia. I mean, we left speed weeks, I think, like 22nd in
Yeah,
points. And here just recently, within the last month, finally got ourselves back up in the top five. But heck, we were, probably 2 months ago, we was 10th to 8th, and it just kept, things have just finally got back to where, we wasn't having a couple problems, that took us out, and some flat tires there for a minute. I felt like we were having flat tires like every dang week, and just some of the things that you can't control with the racing
sure,
guys that, but we kept doing everything we were supposed to do. We kept preparing our cars the best we could. We've been doing, the same things we've always done. We just, luckily, everything's just started to finally just flow. Some of the bad things that were happening, we've nipped in the butt. We've learned from some of our mistakes too. Some of them were mistakes, some mistakes that we've made, and we've learned from them, and we've been able to get a lot more consistent of it because we're learning how to finish the races better.
sure. So now you're heading into Boot Hill tomorrow or this weekend. Is this a place you've found success at over the years? This place you typically run pretty well, or place you like?
Well, I actually only went there for the first time last year.
Okay,
I don't remember. I can't remember if it was a 2 day show or a 1 day show. I thought it was a 2 day show, but maybe not. But I remember things started out good. Like we qualified good, won our heat, and we was leading, fell back a little bit to third, and it was doing our actually that is what happened. We fell to third and I hit the infield tire and ended up knocking the nose down. And so I think we ended up like eighth or ninth. But up till the point of, knocking the nose down, I felt like we were right there with I think Gustin might have won
okay,
last year. But Bobby was up there too. I remember Gustin and Bobby, but I felt like for going there for the first time and never being there before, I felt like we were right there in the hunt to, get the win.
sure. So now, a place you've only been once last year. Is that something where every time you hit the racetrack, you get done? Do you kind of do you look back on your night and, maybe make some notes on things? I was too free in the center. I was too tight in the center. This, that. Where were my low? I mean, is that a night to night occurrence? I mean, as far as building that notebook, they say.
Yeah, I mean that's you're always working through your notebook all night, and then after the feature, you might not evaluate how the feature went that night, but definitely the next day when you're
Sure.
going through and working on putting your notes as far as keeping your lap counts on, your motors and the car and the transmissions, all that stuff. So normally after I get through that, that'd be the next day that I'll evaluate, the feature and make sure that I, put in there the positive and the negative of the night. And then, through the night, I always record, how you qualify, how you run in your heat race and then et cetera. As far as you got to make sure you're writing your notes about the tires because tires are a big thing too, who maybe went soft or who went hard or there's just so many things you got to pay attention to make sure when you go back that you understand how the race just in case the race goes exactly how it did the year before.
And I guess that's kind of a question I've always had for you late model guys, Brian. What goes into the thought process of do I go hard here? Do I go soft? I mean, what's kind of going through your mind when you're looking at the racetrack? I mean, what's a typical, if the track's looking like it's going to be heavier throughout the night, do you go softer? Do you go harder? I mean, what's kind of the thought process there?
Yeah, it's all just dictated on how the track's wearing, how much if it's drying out. So obviously if the track looks like it's going to be a little crummy, a little wet, we definitely put in your mind that you might decide to stay soft on the left sides. But most of the time, unless it gets really, really black, I'm not a guy that goes too hard real fast. I'm normally one of the last few guys that ends up going hard. But it's really just dictated on how much the track goes away on making sure if you're going to, like anything, when it gets hard, you can't have soft tires on because they'll just get, um, when you got soft tires on hard, they get hot and they heat up and they get spongy and then you're just real loose.
Sure. And is that why a lot of the right rears are coming apart? They're getting too hot, and that's why you guys lose a lot of right rears? Is that why most of the time?
No, I mean, the right rear deal is just, we're messing, obviously Hoosiers come out with a new right rear tire.
Sure.
And sometimes, like anything, there's always just growing pains on learning. They have to learn some things about the tire too. The tires that have been coming apart have just been coming apart from the inside out. So those are just things that they learn from just same as we learn. Unfortunately, you got to learn from
The
some
hard
people's
way.
mistakes. Yeah, it's a
Sure.
tough deal, but yeah, no, the tires don't like when we put hard tires on. I mean, that's the difference between a hard tire. When you put a hard tire on and it's the track is hard and slick, you're putting a hard tire on because it'll have that edge, which helps you get grip. So
Sure.
it don't, and the edge don't fold the tire in. And so, where a soft tire is so soft, it just rolls the edge,
Sure.
and then it acts like it's just one big piece of rubber.
Because I did notice, listening to your interview, I think it was, did you take third at Humboldt? Am I right there?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yep,
you had said something about you thought you maybe went the wrong way on tires, Dustin, and I think it was Dennis. Were they softer than you? Does that sound right?
yep, yeah. They went soft that night, and I'd actually talked to Dennis because he parked by me about hard or soft, and I really want it. Like it's that's the problem with racing, man. It's just an educated guess. It's not always a correct answer
Right.
one way or another. And I had looked at the track, and turn two was in my head because it was way wet, and I really knew better, but I'd just been getting beat a little bit here and there by because that's the thing you play some of the games that I wouldn't say games, but you play some of the choices you make off of how the last few races have
Sure.
went. And races for me had been, I've been running being soft and been getting beat because of the hard tire, coming in for them guys that went hard. So that was in my head. And then the track was just really crummy in one and two, but I just had thought that maybe it would clean up, and it just never did. And for them, it was just they made the right choice,
Sure.
and it worked better than the tire that I had on.
Now, is Humboldt, had you been there before? Is that somewhere you'd raced before?
No,
So
no. So
that's
that was a tough part too.
sure.
It's like next year I go back, and if the track's anywhere like the way it was, you just know, listen, the guy that won on a soft tire, so you don't
Sure.
make that mistake twice, which is what hurt us a little bit. I felt like when we took off, that's the thing, when you got a hard tire and it's in, a little bit softer mud, it just slides a little bit more where that soft tire hooks up and has a little
Sure.
more grip. So
Gotcha. Um, going back away from the racing side, I gotta ask probably the most unique nickname in all of motorsports, Squirrel. What's the story there, Brian?
it's just everybody asks. It's just one of them deals where Shannon Babb, obviously, me and him, he don't live too far from me. He's about a half hour east of me, and we would ride motorcycles through the week. And we were at this racetrack that wasn't far from his house, and it was a motocross track, and he didn't really ride a dirt bike all that well. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't like how I was. And I was racing the track and jumping the jumps and jumping over him, and because he was driving, just kind of rolling the jumps, and I'm jumping them. And then we were uh, after that, we just got done riding, and he's like, "Man," he's like, "You were." Riding jumping them jumps, and he's like, "You're flying through the air like that freaking squirrel, on Bullwinkle." And I was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "What?" And then here, freaking 20 some years later, we got Squirrel still as a nickname. But yeah, it's all because of him.
Oh no, I think that is such a cool nickname. My father-in-law, Brian, just loves you. He thinks you're the coolest damn guy and he loves your nickname and he always says, "Oh, all squirrels out there." And he loves to watch. He thinks you're pretty cool. But no, I like to hear the backstory on those because I mean, we all hear, the tall cool one and Black Sunshine and all this stuff and we don't always know the backstory behind the nickname. So that's pretty cool. But no, Brian, I know you're a busy guy. I'll get you off here. I want to grab a couple more questions. We'll get you off here. I've asked this with a few other late model guys that that are that are racing 100 times a year. They're spending the money. Where's the sport going in the next 5 years? I mean, racing. We've had where we race. We're kind of dealing with crowds are down. We're having a hard time getting race cars. It's just we're kind of in a lull right now. Where do you see things going from your standpoint?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I think racing, it's like tit for tat. It's better than it's ever been for the guys that are racing for a living, but it's probably the worst it's ever been for the guy that's trying to do it for fun.
Sure.
So it's a double-edged sword, and it's a slippery slope to talk about. But I hate to say, it's like anything. When you get bigger and things get, the money gets bigger and things get better. It's an evolution of how TV, obviously the internet, flow, all these things are great for everybody, but we got to figure out how to capitalize on getting the local racer back involved. Because if not, 5 years from now, there won't be local racers. and they'll only be your super teams, and they'll just be your big races. I think, I don't see if they don't figure out how to get the working man, and that's how I started. I started racing because I was a working man, and I could go buy a $10,000, $15,000 late model and go to my weekly racetrack and be competitive enough to win locally. Obviously, we wasn't competitive enough to be when, like, have a Tampa come in or something like that, but we was good enough to make the race. And that's, as a local racer, that's what you're shooting for. You're shooting
Absolutely.
just to have a competitive night with people that you look up to and the people that do it for a living. And that's really all you can ask. And if you have that opportunity, life's good, man. They're going home thinking,
Right.
man, I got $1,000 just to make the show.
Had some fun. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
and got some TV time in the
You bet.
process and raced with some of the best racers. And if we don't get back to figuring out how to make that happen, I mean, I hate to say, for me, I mean, I'm 4 or 5 years from my career probably being
Sure.
the end of it, and so I won't never see how the future folds out, but to hopefully see what folds out for the best of local racing. Hopefully we figure out how to make every aspect of racing better.
Yeah, because we've had some conversations with some track owners from around here, and just it was just a tough year. I mean, just whether it was car counts or just getting people in the grandstands. I mean, the reality is they put on a weekly Saturday night show, and a promoter loses 10 grand. The average, I don't care how much money the promoter's got, it's losing its luster for him. If he's just out
Oh
there
yeah.
losing money night after night after night, and he puts the work in. He's there on Tuesday, tearing the track up and trying to give us a good racetrack to work on. Then he shows up and there's 130 people in the grandstands. I mean, what's the point? And that's kind of the situation that we've been in around here this year, which it's really sucked to see because we have some fantastic racetracks. I mean, you've raced at Deer Creek Speedway,
Oh yeah.
Mississippi Thunder Speedway. I mean, I like to think that I Friday and Saturday race at two of the nicest racetracks in the country. I mean, I really do believe that. And I mean, they're having a hard time. I'd hate to see what some of these smaller tracks are struggling like. But yeah, it's just unfortunate because racing ultimately, like you said, relies around the guy justifying spending his 25 bucks an hour, his 30 bucks an hour to go racing on a Friday and Saturday night. And if we lose that, like you said, there's just gonna be, and don't get me wrong, I love watching the World of Outlaws and the Lucas Boys. I mean, you guys are the coolest thing in the world, but yeah, we lose that local side of things. I mean, you can't go have a Lucas show with 16 cars.
Mm-mm.
And that's
Yeah.
that.
You need the local racer to fill the field
Sure,
and
right.
bring the excitement. And that's the tough part about racing right now. I mean, it's, even just say modified racers. I mean, they've turned every aspect of racing into $100,000 race car.
Yeah,
And,
right,
it, when a working man don't even make 100 grand a year and their
right.
mortgage and everything to the tilt to do it, it just at some point in time, everybody will realize this is dumb.
It is dumb.
Yeah. And that's how the track promoters get, same way. Like they're giving it up their all, and they're not coming ahead in the green at the end of the day. And you just can't always do something that's, doesn't make a profit. So
Right.
that's where I say the TV side of things has got to figure out how to make, because the TV side, there is no TV if you don't have no dirt track to race at. So
Right.
they all got to figure out how to make it balanced, because if we don't, it'll be a sad day that someday that it's if it's not around.
Absolutely. Brian, I guess one more I do want to ask you. You said, 4 or 5 years maybe is all you got left. What's the future for Bob Cullen Motorsports? I mean, is Bob kind of a when you're done, he's done, or does he want to, bring a younger guy in? Or have you guys talked about that, or has that not been a conversation?
No, we've talked about it. I mean, he's obviously looking to keep the team going because he's got a son named Carson Cullen that's
Okay.
just started racing a little bit, and he's not looking to see Carson get racing, anything crazy right now, because Carson's a I want to say a 5-star athlete. I mean,
Oh,
he's ridiculous baseball player,
okay.
wrestler. I mean,
He's a wrestler?
he's a wrestler. He was second in the state this year.
That's I coach our wrestling program. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I got a lot
yeah.
of respect for wrestlers.
So he's got a lot of talent and a bright future ahead of him. And Bob always talks about that. He hopefully will go and point his way into that direction and see if he can, maybe become a full-time, baseball player or something. But at the end of the day, if it does, things don't work out and he wants to become a race car driver, there'll be a team, ready for him to go when he decides, when that decides to happen, it'll still be here.
No, that's cool. I always wondered, kind of what the future was. I mean, after you're done and whatnot. But well,
Yeah,
awesome.
his boy is 14, so I figured by the next 4 or 5 years, he'll be almost 18, 19 years old.
Sure,
So he'll know which way, whether he's gonna make it or not make it, and if he's going racing. And then at that time, if Bob chose to keep the team around, I don't know if he'll keep it around, but I know right now the team is gonna do what it's doing for the option of Carson,
sure.
taking over.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. Brian, I guess one last thing. I just want to comment on you. Um, like I said, I got a lot of respect for you, Brian. I've listened to a lot of your interviews in the last 24 hours, and one thing I think that's pretty admirable about you, you're pretty strong in your faith, I've noticed. I think that's pretty cool. I think we maybe just need a little bit of that in this world right now. The world's kind of in a scary place, and it's to hear you talk about, thanking God and, just I think that's pretty cool. So I want to comment on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, it's just what I believe. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I always believe good prevails over bad. So
Absolutely.
it's no different than right now. You're right. The world's in a little bit of a tough spot, but no different than this year when we got to obviously elect President Trump. It happened, and the world showed that there's a lot more people out there willing to speak up when we need to. So
Absolutely.
just don't push. I always say you got to watch out for the quiet ones, and unfortunately, they're starting to push the quiet
Bingo.
one buttons. So it's only a matter of time. It'll all work out.
I like you even more, Brian. Even
Yeah,
more, man.
that's
But awesome, guys. Episode 28, Squirrel, Brian, Shirley. Man, I wish you the best of luck just the rest of the year. I'd like to see you get a couple more wins here. That'd be awesome. I'll be rooting for you from Minnesota. Um, guys, head on over Race Ranch, I believe. You can go get yourself some Brian
yep,
Shirley apparel. Head on over to his Facebook page, give him a follow, keep up with him. And yeah, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
no problem, man. Anytime.
Awesome. You take care. Good luck this weekend.
You too, bud.